digital and financial inclusion, it also unlocks significant growth potential for the mobile money industry. Based on GSMA estimates, we estimate that closing the gender gap in lower middle income countries between 23 and the year 2030 represents a $230 billion potential revenue opportunity for the industry. So joining for that conversation is Mr. Ali Irfan, Chief Experience Officer at JazzCash. And JazzCash, for those that may not be familiar with the company, is Pakistan's #1 mobile money provider that has been pioneering financial inclusion in Pakistan. JazzCash has harnessed the power of mobile technology to bridge financial divides, empower individuals, and create new avenues for economic growth. And notably, JazzCash is also one of the GSMA's Connected Women Commitment Partners, an initiative by the GSMA that works with mobile operators to reduce the gender gap in mobile internet and mobile money consumption services by making formal commitments to increase the proportion of women in their mobile internet and or mobile money customer base. So that said, I would like to welcome to stage, first of all, our very own Nyiva Musyoka, who is our Senior Market Engagement Manager at the GSMA, as well as Ali Irfan, Chief Experience Officer at JazzCash. Welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this fireside chat session where we will delve into a topic of profound importance in the realm of mobile technology, the gender gap in mobile ownership and usage. In today's digital age, the mobile industry is a powerful force, connecting people, driving economic growth, and fostering innovations. However, the gender gap persists in mobile ownership and usage, and especially in low and middle income countries. And according to GSMA data, we find that women are 7% less likely than men to own a mobile phone, 19% less likely than men to use mobile internet, and 28% less likely than men to use mobile money. These are indeed significant gaps, and also they are preventing women in benefiting the full potential of mobile technology. This isn't just a statistic, it's an economic opportunity that remains untapped. I'm joined by Ali Irfan. It's a pleasure having you, Ali, but most importantly, did your luggage finally arrive?
Thank you, Nyiva. On day 2 of 3, it did arrive. So, I got to do some Rwandan shopping, just in case.
Ali, just in case it didn't arrive and you came in your pink shorts, we would be color coordinated.
Absolutely.
So it's a pleasure once again to have you here. And Ali, you are the Chief Experience Officer of JazzCash, the #1 mobile provider in Pakistan. That's a very interesting title. Actually, I've not heard of an experience officer before. And it would be interesting to hear from you, for you to share about yourself, your role at JazzCash, highlighting your experiences that have shaped your vision into financial inclusion and gender.
All right, great. First of all, thank you, Nyiva and Bart-Jan, for having me here on this for this discussion. Also, Ashley. The interesting part about how experience is set up, and let me just quickly tell you the footprint of JazzCash. So we have approximately 43 million customers that are registered with us. So we have a large country of 230 million people, and nearly half of those are active for us. So it's a handful. And in terms of what experience means and what I look after, it's any interaction between the customer and our organizations. It effectively starts from the brand marketing message, and it goes through to building product journeys and then it's about the experience that the customers have interacting with us. So, and part of this is to look after the diversity and inclusion agenda of JazzCash as well. So that's the area that I look after, and yeah, that's pretty much encompassing across the board.
It's evident that your experiences have deeply influenced your commitment for financial inclusion and also excellent customer experience. And drawing from your experience in low and middle income countries, what strategies have been the most effective when it comes to, targeted gender actions, and what can we be inspired by here today?
Well, it's some of the data that you shared at the outset, the percentage of women represented both in data and both in mobile money. I can assure you Pakistan is not improving the average, and that's not something to be proud about, but we are all here to ensure that we keep working in the right direction. And similar statistics from Pakistan, where in a population of 230 million, we have approximately 50% smartphones, but the ratio between men and women is nearly half. So half of the women actually have smartphones compared to men. We have 20% bank accounts in the country, so 80% are sort of excluded. If you add together informal services, then that's 30% coverage. So still 70% of the population is not really included, especially the women, where if the bank accounts for men are 20%, the women are nearly 12 to 13%. So we are, essentially very far behind. So we try, as part of our agenda, to as many things as possible that are far-reaching, and I think it all starts from the awareness and education angle, because you cannot fix a problem unless you make everybody aware of the benefits that could come from potentially participating in, having data access, having mobile money access. So I'll cover 2 or 3 examples of what we've done in our market, things which were not done before. So the first one is a rural engagement program that we're running in deep rural settings in about 50 rural areas per quarter. So what that does is it's a targeted education, awareness, and empowerment program for women. So what we do is we go and have a setup inside these deep rural settings where we sort of have a small fair kind of festival, attract people, do some pre-hype marketing to get people excited about these events and get them over, both the men and women. But in isolation, we have 2 sessions. We have a women's session first for 3 to 4 hours, where we, first of all, give them the tools, tell them about data access, what it can bring them, give them examples through real people. So, for example, there are cultural challenges where the women are possibly not able to go outside their homes for employment, etc. So we combine the men and women to come forward with stories about how they've used mobile money to actually start earning a wage from within their rural setting. So if they have data access and if they have mobile money access, then they really don't need to step outside of their homes. So we have a brother-sister combination that we take, for example, and the brother encouraged the sister to actually go on YouTube and to develop some self-help home-based videos that she placed on YouTube, and she started earning from them. So these are the sort of examples that we give on those fairs. Then we take local influencers. So the local influencers are able to speak the language of the people in that area. So they essentially can talk to them and convince them of the value associated with financial empowerment. We also talk about the tools that are available. So e-commerce, for example, just introduction of these things, the savings ability for women, which is great because women are generally better savers than men, especially in Pakistan. So it's just those sort of initiatives. So this happens every quarter, and we've had enormous success with at least the people being excited. And it's not just the women, but getting the men on board is equally important, so that there is an understanding that we come out of the cultural challenges that are faced. So this is just one example. Another one is our partnership with UN Women. So we've gone out with the UN Women program, and we've nearly 75% of Pakistani women are unemployed. And that's not because they don't want to work or cannot work. It's just the circumstances have not been provided. So they need the skills, they need the awareness and understanding. So what we've done with the UN Women is to go out and educate women on these technical skills that they can have, to give them digital skills, to start becoming micro-entrepreneurs, to start businesses from their homes. And so this is a separate program, again in a mostly rural setting that we do. And we're trying to get 10,000 women up until the end of next year to become micro-entrepreneurs just by the tools and the education that we provide them through this program. That's number two. Another one is with the UN, again, UNDP, which is their development arm, and it's called WISE. So this is now about urban and semi-urban women. So we kind of target different tools towards different women to give them the ability to come back and start their careers, start something at home, become an earning member of the household, which kind of elevates their position to do things. And then finally, I just want to mention, it all starts with awareness. So what we did was, and we continue to do, is on occasions like Women's Day and other special days where we celebrate the role of women in our communities, we take out, and this time we took out a campaign which asked a few questions to the men. So we got 3 men in a room, and we asked them some questions about what the role of women in their household was, and eventually we asked them about then how come they don't have mobile accounts, and etc. And this is pretty raw, but it got the message across. So those are the sort of tools we are constantly using to just go out and make a change.
Those are indeed very insightful strategies, and I'm sure the audience here will find those inspiring and applicable. Now, looking into the market potential, women represent an often overlooked market segment in terms of the commercial revenue they represent. In fact, from the introduction earlier, we've heard that women actually are showing, we've had that studies show that closing the gender gap in mobile ownership and usage could unlock billions of dollars in additional revenue. How is JazzCash strategizing on tapping into this market potential?
So it's interesting you mentioned this. We've had some informal studies of our own within Pakistan, and unlocking the potential of all the women who could join the workforce, we could add a staggering 33% to our GDP. And it's just, that's the motivation to go after this segment. But in order to get to the segment, we really need to understand their needs and fulfill those needs. So some of the opportunities that we're taking right now to target women and value propositions that we're building. An example is a debit card that we're just launching in the market. It's targeted towards women. So what does it do? It's not just a design of a particular color. Interestingly, we did a research on that as well, of what colors women prefer in our country. It seems like they prefer darker colors, metallic tones. But so this particular card has different value proposition associated to it. So including cashbacks and discounts on merchants that they prefer, including services received at home. So home deliveries, because women can't always leave their homes to go outside, and in terms of safety and security aspect as well. So we provide them certain services that they would exclusively get. So that's one element, and that's a way of generating revenue by having a women-targeted product. Then we have a product called Committee. This is it's a culturally used product in Pakistan, which is a forced saving. So what people do is they pool funds, and that pool of funds, everybody takes turns over 12 months, and they receive that pool of funds. So everybody's contributing monthly, but each person has a number from 1 to 12, and they get to draw that money for their own use whenever it's convenient to them. And people have to pay for school education, somebody's wedding, some other important matters. So this is what they use. So this product is primarily used by women because women save through these informal networks. We're digitizing that product. We're we're bringing it out for people to use over their mobile money offering. So right from their homes, they can just deposit money and be a beneficiary. So that's number 2. Then we also, our GSM arm, our mobile services arm, is coming up with mobile handset lending. Now, that's always been a challenge, but you do need to give these handsets to women if they are to come into the fold of digital services. So that's another thing that we're doing. And then primarily targeting savings products and insurance products which are related to the female health. We're also bringing out those products, providing them to the ladies. So these are the ways in which we are targeting some of the needs of women and kind of converting that into a viable revenue proposition as well.
I like your commitment to tailoring services to women. It's indeed very commendable. And we know for sure that in order to inform business, it's of course critical to have strong insights and reliable data of your customer base and also their usage patterns. We know, however, that the absence of accurate gender disaggregated data has been a consistent barrier to measuring, evaluating, and ultimately resolving gender issues. And the mobile industry is no exception. So what challenges have you experienced when it comes to obtaining gender data for your customer base?
Well, we all keep hearing about data being the new oil, whether it's the fact or not. But gender disaggregated data, the same thing. If you don't have the correct level of information, how are you ever going to act as an organization or even policymakers or even anybody who has to make any changes? So we have another challenging issue that most of the SIM cards in the country, and as a result, the mobile wallets also are owned or registered in men's names. So in a household, for the sister, for the mother, or any other relation, the husband, father, son, somebody would actually have their name on the registered account. And the same thing goes for mobile wallets. So it's very difficult to disaggregate that and to understand patterns of usage. What that results in is development of a product range which is inadvertently biased towards one gender. It also creates all sorts of misfit. For example, credit worthiness. We are also doing nano lending, micro lending. How can you micro lend to somebody or nano lend when you don't have their history and you don't understand their usage pattern because it's not really them? So that creeps in, and all sorts of biases creep into your organization as well because you're used to targeting information in a certain way. So we need data badly. We need this disaggregation. We need to know what the usage patterns are, and so that we can build real value for actual people who could use our product.
It's interesting that you mentioned the challenge of men, purchasing SIM cards for, the family. It's indeed a noteworthy challenge in many markets. And what the GSMA has done is to develop the gender analysis and identification toolkit to help with the mobile operators where they can be able to predict the gender of their subscribers. Now, the toolkit is a machine learning algorithm, and we are proud to have JazzCash, being one of our pilot partners, leveraging Gate, to be able to obtain the gender of your subscribers. But beyond getting that gender, how do you envision the toolkit helping you and also giving you insights in terms of other subscriber groups?
That's very interesting. So first of all, we're very excited about the Gate pilot and looking forward to it. And I think it just couldn't have come at a better time. We're constantly looking to break down the gender information. What that allows us to do is really to build correct value propositions for the women customers that we have on our network, and to get more like those and to build products that can satisfy their needs. Right now, we're kind of, as they call, spraying and praying, because we have partial data. We do have data, but it's not accurate. It's not correct. So our products and our services and our propositions are only as good as the data that they rely on. So once we do get this disaggregated data, it will allow us to build a value proposition for men and for women specifically, and targeted to their needs. We also undertake a lot of research separately. So, we've recently done this debit card research. We've also done other researches. Another one, we partnered with a large group, and we did a study around the country of all the rural women and what their needs are. And we keep identifying information. Every time we get information, it reinforces the fact that we need to develop digital skills. We need to map the journeys of these women, because we need to understand how do they spend their day. We need to make it convenient for them. We need to build value for them so that they can take it. We need to explain to them this is a secure method, this is a safe method, and we also have to work on an agent network, which I didn't mention previously, but we have 20,000 ATMs in the country, but we have close to 300,000 agents in the country as well. So those agents act like human machines, ATM machines, right? They're cashing in, cashing out all the money. So again, there's a safety, security aspect. There's a cultural challenge of being able to step out of your home, go to the agent in a marketplace to cash in or cash out. That restricts certain women from actually taking up these services. So we're also working on those areas. So what we hope to accomplish from GATE and from the information that we receive, to start developing products and our network to support those products. So for example, female agents. We're already working on rural, semi-urban and urban plans to have female agents present, but this will help us get clusters of women customers where they're present, and we will be able to map where to place them and what sort of things to give them. So it will open up a lot of doors, and hopefully it will allow us to get all these women on board with the financial services.
Thank you for sharing that, and we look forward to working with you and supporting you in data analytics and helping you to come up with strategies to address the underserved female population. So JazzCash's commitment to pioneering financial inclusion and actively reducing the gender gap demonstrates the industry's potential for positive change. Tools like the Gender Analysis and Identification Toolkit, like the GSMA, hold promise in addressing data challenges and promoting inclusivity. In closing, the gender gap isn't just a challenge. It's an economic opportunity that remains untapped, and it's an opportunity to empower more individuals and also unlock the full potential of mobile technology. Thank you, Ali, for sharing your insights, your experiences, and we hope this discussion inspires greater collaboration and progress in bridging the gender gap. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, that was super exciting and super insightful as well. Thank you so much, Nyiva, and especially thank you so much, Ali. As today we count 98 countries that have mobile money services, there's just so much to learn from each other, from country to country, within the African space, or from continent to continent. And that's also one of the key roles that we see for ourselves as a GSMA, to facilitate the discourse and bring those best practices from country to country, for instance, at this convening here. So thank you so much again, Ali. As we jump into the second part of this session, I would, from this position at least, jump my own introduction and right away introduce the speakers that we're so proud of having. I would like to welcome to stage Serine Dioum, Group Chief Digital and Fintech Officer for MTN Group, Aida Diarra, Senior Vice President and Head of Sub-Saharan Africa for Visa, and Irfan, Chief Executive Officer for Axian Open Innovation and Fintech. Serine, Aida, Irfan, please. thank you so much for being here with us today. Very excited to have you on stage. As an icebreaker to this session, let me not ask you about your flight and lost luggage and potential pink shorts. But I would like to say, though, it's a real pleasure having you here with us today on stage. Welcome. And as we embark on our conversation on how innovations in African fintech are transforming financial services for all, it's very special, in fact, to have three executives of your caliber here with me today. Because, as we'll learn, over the past decade or so, Serine, Aida, and Irfan are really some of the key industry leaders that have shaped the way mobile money and fintech looks today on the African continent. So it's a real privilege to speak with you and with such visionaries about the what's next. Right? What are the innovations that are coming next and are coming our way? So I would like to speak with you on a number of topics about payments, about advanced financial services and open platforms, about investments in our industry, and also about how we ensure that we leave no one behind. So to sum that up, really about how fintech innovation may transform financial services for Africans the way we know them today. But before we dive into those different topics, I think our audience would probably like to know a little bit and learn a little bit more about yourselves. And Serine, if I may start it with you, actually. You have a very impressive history in building mobile money.
Don't we gentlemen a bit start with Aida?
I'm happy to go as well. Yeah, thank you for the correction. Aida, thank you so much for being here with us, and thank you, Serine. I would like to ask you, can you tell a little bit about yourself and your role as Senior Vice President and Head of Sub-Saharan Africa for Visa? And can you tell a little bit more about how Visa is working to foster digital payments and financial inclusion?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the opportunity. It's certainly great to participate in this session. As you rightfully mentioned, I have the privilege of leading Sub-Saharan Africa for Visa. We are certainly focusing on driving, the cash digitization agenda that is a priority for pretty much every stakeholder around the continent, understanding the importance to make sure that we cast the net and we include all stakeholders of the ecosystem to drive economic development. And that's truly is what is driving my team and I day in, day out. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aida. Thank you for being here with us on stage today. Serine, allow me then to jump to Irfan first, if that's okay. Irfan, you have recently actually joined Action Group in your capacity as CEO, Open Innovation and Fintech. But previously, you've worked across the mobile money industry. One of your recent positions was at JazzCash in Pakistan. You've also worked for Orange Money in several markets across Africa. Can you tell us a little bit, with that experience that you bring, about what Action Group's strategic goals are and for you personally, what you aim to achieve?
Thank you. So I think what is interesting with Action Group is that it's actually a conglomerate, right? So we operate in 5 verticals, and that's basically what we call essential services, right? So we're in energy, so we're building a solar farm in Dakar, for example, or a hydraulic powerhouse, for example. We're in telecom as well, bank and microfinance, fintech and real estate, right? So the whole group, and that's why we always talk about impact. It's about providing all these essential services across Africa. Now, when it comes to fintech and open innovation, so the open innovation, I'm sure, may raise a few questions, right? So fintech is clear for everyone, and I'll get back to that. Open innovation is under my responsibility, and with my team, we have the big data agenda for the entire group, so the 5 verticals. And we're driving also the innovation agenda across the group. So we have a team of what we call innovation makers, and we're trying to, promote, I would say, innovation. And the reason why, we put that under the same umbrella is that we believe that payment, data, basically are two very important, along with digital infrastructure, obviously, are, important asset to drive innovation, right? So that's what we do. And the fintech space, so we do mobile wallets, but we also have a bank license in Madagascar. So basically we operate as a bank and a fintech. And that's what you will see more and more. So we want to grow and want to offer full financial services to our customer base across Africa in our current footprints, where we also operate as a telecom player, but also beyond that footprint. So we're basically looking at all opportunities across the continent to bring innovation and inclusion to the African continent.
Thank you so much, Irfan. Great pleasure to have you as well. And Serene, to return to yourself, you've seen the mobile money industry over the past decade, and you've made such a big personal contribution to that. So I would like to know from you, if you look ahead, let's say, time frame of 5 years from now, if you think about that future, what is keeping you awake at night? What's your personal vision for the coming years in our industry, and how does also your company, MTN, aim to enable that?
Thank you very much, and pleasure to be here. And so for me, I think if I look at what we are doing today, where we are, and where we want to see ourselves in 5 years, 10 years, it is, first of all, our vision is to build the largest fintech business in Africa, or we can say fintech platform business. And for us, we would be very happy, or success would look like that we become the transactional place of choice of Africans. And that is really what we are looking for, and we are trying to build.
Thank you so much, and welcome as well to you, Serene. So just some exploratory first introductory questions. We're already learning quite a number of things from those questions and answers. One of the first topics that I would like to dive in with you is around payments. Payments is really, I would say, one of the use cases that people really pretty much use every day, right? So when paying in a shop for groceries, paying their fare when they're commuting through their city, paying for items when maybe buying online. So therefore, arguably at least, it's maybe the use case that really drives digitization of consumer behavior. At the same time, we know that only 5 to 7% of all payments in Africa are actually made over digital channels. The vast majority evidently being handled by cash. And this is as per McKinsey data. So Aida, I would like to start this with you actually, because Visa is of course the #1 enabler of digital payments in the world through the multiple card payment instruments that you have and the global transaction network that you have. So from that vantage point, I think it's very interesting to hear what kind of trends do you see emerging in markets that could shape the future of payments? And maybe also compared to other regions, what adaptations or customizations, if any, do you see that card networks are making to really tune their proposition to serve the needs of Africa?
Wow. Payment is probably one of the most vibrant industries. And I'll probably focus on 4 or 5 trends that we see and the implications for players like Visa in the ecosystem. The first thing has to do with the way commerce is currently done today. You know, back in the days, you would go at the store, you will talk to the salesperson, discuss options, and purchase at point of sale, right? Then we've seen a transformation where through internet, you would go online, browse a few options, and then make a decision, make the purchase online, and you would receive your goods at home. what we're beginning to see that is quite interesting is that commerce now is happening outside of the typical platforms, and it's happening on all the social networks. You're talking about TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, yeah? And the way it happens is that the information comes to you through channels such as influencers or content creators sometimes, which really challenge the way we think about the entire payment experience together, yeah? The way we embed payment into these platforms that are typically not places for transactions to take place. So that would be, for me, trend, the first trend. We really need to be where the consumers are, yeah? The other important, trends that I see is the pace at which technology is taking place, the adoption of technology is taking place. I always like to go back to some of the data points around the number of years or the number of months it took, the likes of Uber to have access to 100 million customers. So if you take Uber, it took about 7 years, yeah? If you look at Spotify, it took about 3.5 years for them to reach 100 million customers. Instagram, 2.5 years. ChatGPT, 60 days. 60 days. Talk about the urgency for us to innovate, be relevant in market, and I'm talking about all the stakeholders in the payment landscape, yeah? The third trend that I'm gonna talk about, and I'm gonna try to be brief, has to do with, the power of ChatGPT, generative AI, the way it can personalize options to consumers, the way it allows you, based on your consumer behavior, to channel, options that are so pertinent to you is foundational. The flip side of, generative AI has to do with the fact that increasingly it could be used also by people that are not well intended. I'm going into the space of fraud, which means that players in the payment ecosystem need to prioritize the security, the fraud prevention measures, and pay specific attention to cyber criminality. And then the last point, and I'm going to be very brief, is about the role the regulators are playing in the overall payment ecosystem. They're increasingly present, that sometimes they themselves play a role in that landscape. The question, and all stakeholders are pushing to have a level playing field, transparency on how we operate. But these would be, for me, some of the large trends impacting payments overall. We could talk about many other things.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Super exciting. I hear already lots of interesting things. And as Visa, you're so close, of course, to these players with their propositions and their platforms that all need payments. One of the things I triggered on is payment needs to be there where people need them, is what you mentioned. And I would like to kind of use that as a bridge to explore that space from the one hand, card industry that you represent, and the other hand, mobile money industry. And maybe if I may raise a question to you, Serene, because mobile money has been the key instrument, I guess, to digitize payments on the African continent, where maybe the bank's infrastructure could or could not yet reach. So could you tell a little bit more about your vision for the future of how we digitize payments in Africa?
Thank you very much. So for us, first of all, I think talking about card, mobile money, we think that we're all fighting against cash. So exactly. What we want is to digitalize cash, and as you said, more than 90% of transactions today are cash-based. So there is a room to improve it, and for every type of payment. And for us, really what we are trying to do is to make sure that, first of all, on one leg, we get as much people as we can to get access to a wallet, to be able to have an account. And the second part is on the merchant side, because merchant payment is where really you can have a lot of cash transactions that you can digitalize. And for us, even if we are targeting a bit the high-value merchants, but we are more looking at SMEs and the low-value merchants, and to make sure that they all be in a situation to accept payment, and any type of payment, mobile money payment, card of payment, and to make sure that they're in a position to do that. And for MTN, our ambition is very high on that. Currently, we are close to 2 million merchants, and we think that in end of 2025 will be to 5 million. And we think that by onboarding those merchants and allowing them to accept electronic payment, digital payment, will really help to digitalize more and more the transactions.
That's, of course, fantastic ambitions. Moving from 2 to 5 million merchants over time. Think about the quantity for starts, but also those small merchants being the backbone of economies. So I think that's really a great ambition to have. You mentioned a couple of things that, Irfan, in preparation of this session, we also kind of touched upon. They're related to how actually bring people on board and digitize them away from cash. And we touched upon some of the barriers as well. So can you share a little bit of your view on how retail payments can really become part of people's daily lives? And what is it that we need to do?
So I think we had a question in the previous session that was quite interesting from a regulator, I believe, and that was like, how come people, are not using their mobile wallet every month, right? I think that's the thing is that we've been very successful, moving money from point A to point B or doing some bill payments. But the truth is that, the vast majority of cash is used every day to make small payments at a grocery shop. And that's I think the next frontier for all of us, right? And that's the one that I think we started cracking it the last few years altogether. It's really like the new frontier, right? At the end of the day, to me, it's a piece of philosophy, if I may say. But for a long time, I think we, at least the mobile wallet players, approach payments completely wrong, right? That was all about the end user, the consumer experience, right? So I even remember that we even tried like NFC 10 years ago, and I think the day we started cracking it is when we started seeing the merchant as the client that we need to serve, right? So we need to solve problem for the merchant. So to me, payment is one, but obviously, if we want to accelerate, we need to see beyond payment. So we look at SMEs, what Serine was saying, right? So you can do way more than just payment with an SME. It's 90% of the trade in our geographies are basically riding on all these small mom and pops, right? So they need financing. They need to, when they restock to the FMCGs, they need maybe to pay by installments, right? So that's also financing. They need to invoice sometimes their own customer. So why not you offer that kind of service as well? So to me, the key is really to see merchants as clients and to put as much effort and innovation as we have done in the last 15 years on the B2C business. The day you do that, basically you will be very successful in not just payments, but in serving and digitalizing these retailers that we have in our markets. I hope it does answer the question.
Yeah, no, I like it a lot. And what I also liked, trying to connect different parts of the conversation is Serine, your point was very valid that it's not so much necessarily about cards and or versus mobile money. We've got a joint competitor. It's called cash. Yeah? That's the nice. Working again? Yes. Thank you so much. Aida, I would like to turn to you therefore. Visa is known for its partnerships. So I would like to ask you, how do you see Visa as a partner
Yeah, no, as mentioned both by Serine and Erwan, the task at hand is huge. And from the perspective of Visa, it takes the entire ecosystem to come together and address the need to digitize payments. And as we look at MNOs and Fintech, we are partnering to ensure that we capitalize on the phenomenal work that they've done to create access, but both from a consumer perspective and from a merchant perspective, and make sure that, as we partner with them, we overlay capabilities that we know have played a key role in creating additional convenience, overlaying value-added services that will allow to go deeper into the partnership. So if you take, for example, a technology like contactless that has been proven to digitize everyday payments. Yeah, you take a country like South Africa today, 65% of the transaction face-to-face are now contactless. You go and want to pay your parking, you have a contactless transaction. You go to the small merchants, yeah, even the small seller in mall, he will ask you, do you want to tap or dip? And I think it's really about that partnership, leveraging the reach. You combine it with access, with technology, plus opening small merchants to the rest of the world. Think about that by providing them with capabilities to get online, to have access to marketplaces. So for us, it's more of a network approach that really ensures that collectively we bring value and convenience to the ecosystem and to the continent.
Thank you, Aida. Switching to the microphone here. This sounds very audible, if I'm not mistaken. Building upon that, actually, partnerships and creating integrations between different service providers, I'd like to kind of make the bridge to another trend that we clearly see and that all three of you are working on. It's all about opening up mobile money platforms to enable third parties to connect, to enhance their services, to innovate against your platforms. And Sorini, I would like to start this with you, actually. I think MTN has clearly positioned itself as a fintech. You also mentioned that earlier. And you want to be Africa's leading digital platform. And one of the strong initiatives that you're driving within MTN is the Momo Open API platform, which really allows both startups and incumbents to connect to your platform and to innovate leveraging your Momo capacities. So can you tell us a little bit more about the objective that MTN aims to achieve with such an open platform strategy and how this will drive fintech innovation and scale digital services?
Thank you very much. So I think for us, it started like a couple of years, 4 or 5 years ago, where we decided to move from being a service provider, mobile money service provider, to a platform provider. And that was a very important decision for us. And that means that before, as a telco and mobile money provider, we used to care only about customers. But moving to platforms, then we have everyone becomes customers. And we have value proposition for consumers, but value proposition for partners, for agents, for merchants, and when we looked at the pain point for most of people who wanted to work with us, it was how long it was taking to integrate with us. And it used to take sometimes 3 years for someone to try to integrate to us. And that is when you know someone. But I think with Open API, we've decided then to see what would be really helping our partners, and then it is when we decided to launch Open API. And we decided to expose all our APIs that our partners would need in one platform. And by doing that, it is allowing now our partners to integrate to us, to download the APIs, develop, to use the sandbox, and launch their services without any human interaction. And that is very important, and I think it was a turning point for us to really position ourselves as a platform. And we can see now that there is a big shift from most of transactions. A lot of transactions are moving to the Open API platform. And we see more and more partners developing their services and using our platform to reach our customers, our agents, other partners. And for us, that is very important because we know that we cannot do everything ourselves. And that allows others to be able to use our platform to be able to get access to our customers, our merchants, and maybe it is an opportunity also to thank GSMA because you supported us a lot in developing the Open API platform, making sure that we had the right value proposition, and you're still supporting us to improve it and to add more functionalities around the platform.
Thank you so much for those kind words, of course, Sarigne. Maybe to just share that Sarigne's team is currently running the Momo Hackathon 2023. It's running in, I believe, 14 of your markets. GSMA is very proud to endorse the hackathon and support it. And just to put it in perspective, I don't know the exact number, the latest, but I think there were more than 5,000 applications of startup community members that wanted to participate in this hackathon, just to sketch the scale and the potential of this type of proposition. Bring that to the other side of the row, but also the other side of mobile money. Irfan, at Exion, you've explored a similar type of approach and also long started to diversify financial service offerings like credit or loans or savings, payments as discussed. At the same time, we also see there's a lot of fintechs entering the space, offering bank tech services, neo-banking, that aim to maybe disrupt financial services or offer complementary services. So if you look at those trends, do you see this as an opportunity for mobile money as well? Is this a competition outside? Can the mobile money industry replicate that or maybe even advance that ahead?
So as usual, I would say, competition it's always an opportunity, right? So, and we copy with pride. And I need to, honestly, you can't be always like the innovator, right? So, and it's very good to, when something works, at least, you don't have to, you know exactly what to do and so on. So typically I can pay a tribute to Sarigne and MTN Group because we're copying with pride their bank tech approach, and so we're building our own in-house credit risk teams, so doing all the prediction, portfolio monitoring, but also product design. And that's because we believe that there's a lot of value and innovation to bring in that business. So we're doing it, and we'll serve all our opcos and maybe even beyond other industries, right? So there's a lot of potential. Now, again, competition. I think we're, and I really like the platform business, right? So there are a few things that we do ourselves. It doesn't mean that we build walls, right? So we open up, we're a platform business fundamentally. So we can do our own, design our own lending service. It doesn't mean that we will not, for example, expose the score that we create, that we've built for our customers to third parties. So typically we have that platform business, we enrich the ecosystem, but sometimes we do ourselves, launch and offer a few products to our customer base. And I think in the future, you will see more and more of that. So we need to be a successful platform player. And there are a few, I would say, critical products that we'll also offer ourselves. So it will be both. And again, competition is good. We were having that discussion yesterday at the dinner. I think when you build walls, you become lazy, right? So our philosophy at Axian is that we need to open up, and that will drive innovation within Axian, but also for the entire industry.
Thank you so much. And if we talk about open platforms, one of the buzzwords that keeps on coming back is the word super app, right? Super app. And it's unclear to me, at least, what exactly is meant with that, because I think there's many different definitions when used. But it's certainly connected to such an open platform, right? So, Sarini, when it comes to the Momo Money side and building upon this open Momo platform, could you elaborate if, and maybe how, MTN envisions super apps fitting into your broader platform strategy? And maybe what type of role do you see those super apps play in transforming digital financial services?
No, thank you very much. So for us, what we are doing is, I don't know if it will be called super app or not, but it is all verticals that, just to remind everyone, our strategy as MTN is to really develop 5 verticals in one business: the wallet, payment in e-commerce, lending, insurtech, and international remittance. And the idea is all those verticals are accessible from one single interface, which is today, most of customers do have access to those services through USSD, but also now we are pushing more and more the app, and people have access to those using the app, and that is very important for us because then it helps to give a better customer experience to our customers, and also it's very important because it makes our business more sustainable. Because the idea also is to offer to our customers the best world-class experience that you can find, so that if those from Silicon Valley comes here and they offer something to our customers, they already have it. So, and it is why for us it is very important to build a digital channel that are adopted and with a great customer experience to our customers. So we can call it super app, that today from our app you can do your basic wallet services, but you can have access to other verticals that I talked about. And we will keep improving it more and more over the time.
Understood, understood. So I think we've heard a lot of very interesting things already about trends, about payments, about open platforms, about bank tech and super apps. And I've been kind of guiding that, but I, of course, would also like to ask the open question: what kind of trends do you see beyond, right? And maybe can I start with Irfan? What's kind of the trends that you see emerging that you feel really are critical for the coming 5 years, say?
So, yeah, I don't mean to be exhaustive because by definition we don't know what's coming, right? So it's just an opinion. But data, so today we leverage data for credit scoring and so on and so on. I think historically, and especially in Africa, we haven't leveraged data on customer segmentation and targeting customers to grow our business. So it's not like a revolution. I think what we'll see more and more, that's because also our mobile wallet business scale, right? So there is still a lot of growth, but basically to get to that extra 50%, 100%, and so on, leveraging data, targeting customers, segmenting your base will become more important. So all customer-based management and so on and so on. That's typically something that I experienced back in Pakistan with JazzCash, because when I joined, I was impressed by the level of expertise and investment put in the CVM. So it's not just sending an SMS saying, please do a cash-in, right? There were like segmentation, targeting, cashback campaigns, massive, massive, and it brought us millions and millions of net adds, right? So that's one thing that I believe will be very important in the next few years in our opcos. The second is, at least I personally believe that you will see some unbundling. Right? So, I mean, today we do pretty much, so let me give you an example. Agent network is something that we kind of own, right? So we acquire the agent and the agent serve our customers only. What we see in some of our markets, and I was in Tanzania two weeks ago, is that all these agents, the wakalas, I hope I'm pronouncing it well. Angelica is in the room, so to be cautious. If you go to these wakalas, so yes, you see all the mobile wallets and so on, but interestingly, you see a lot of banks there. And basically what they do is that they leverage all these aggregators that are building these agent networks and that serve the banks like agent banking. So I think you'll see some unbundling where you basically some of the assets that you build, you will start to monetize them. So it's not just an enabler, the agent network, it will become a business itself. And obviously the third one, I think we discussed, that's all around the platform business, but it means a lot beyond. So we need to be very good at onboarding these partners, making it easy to connect to our customer base and transact with them. But there's a lot you can do. So, you're basically hosting sometimes 50% of the population every month on your platform, right? So there's a lot you can do to help all these partners sell better, not just collect money, but how do they get, reach these customers via your platform? And as we, build these apps and via the smartphone, I know I'm taking too much time. You can basically help them target customers better, right? So at some point, I think advertising will become an avenue for us.
Thank you very much, Emma. I think this is a conversation we could, with the three of you, continue for hours, actually. But I would like to shift gears a little bit. Fintech is expensive, right? Fintech, to drive it at scale, requires sizable investments, especially if we want to innovate. So I would like to touch upon that subject a little bit, and maybe starting that with you, Aida. Because Visa has made very significant investments in fintech companies globally as well as in Africa specifically. So can you share some insights in Visa's investment strategy in Africa and how these investments contribute to advancing financial inclusion on the continent?
Yes, thank you. Yes, you're right. We've definitely prioritized the support to fintechs and in different ways. It has, number one, to be with, making sure that we, provide them with the latest technology and be the catalyst for the, accelerated innovation that they have started themselves. But today we can, through technology, do a number of interesting things, such as having virtual credentials, virtual accounts. You don't need the physical plastic. And they're very bullish about driving access, leveraging such technology. You also have players who are being instrumental at casting the net broader from a merchant standpoint. How do you overlay, tokenization to make sure that, we can accelerate contactless, for example. So the first angle is really to integrate all these new technologies that cast the net broader in terms of access and convenience. The second layer is also making sure that we provide them with all the value-added services to make sure that they would provide a safe environment, a secure environment for payments. It's not the most fun part of offering payments, but it is certainly a critical piece. So we really work very closely with the fintechs to make sure that they are up to speed with the latest requirements. Yeah, you are as weak as your weakest link in that overall payment ecosystem, and we pride ourselves to make sure that we onboard them accordingly. And then, there is a whole broader investment in just supporting them from an investment perspective, providing them with resources to grow. We've just wrapped our FinTech Accelerator program a couple of weeks back, where we, give them a forum to have access to finances, to resources, to help them continue to develop their activity. These are a few examples of how, we're choosing to partner and support fintechs in the continent.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that perspective, because it's so critical to have those investments in the space. And it's not only investments, you also use the word again, partnerships, right? Serigne, also at your end, MTN has landed a very significant investment and partnership, not from Visa, but from MasterCard this year, selling a monetary stake into MTN Momo at a $5.2 billion valuation. Serene, the actual amount has never been disclosed, so I'm sure if you would like to do that today, the audience is happy to know. But maybe a more appropriate question is, you've had your strategic reasons to seek this type of investments. Can you tell a bit more about what the objective is of raising this capital, and also how you see that partnership evolve with MasterCard?
Thank you very much. So I think the discussion that we are having, or we had with MasterCard, has two sides. One is a commercial partnership, and the other one is the investment. And for us, the commercial partnership is the most important part, because what we are looking for is really to how we can scale our business faster, because we really understand what we want to do, but we think that doing it alone would be very difficult, and it is why we are doing this. And the second part, which is the investment part also, you know, as telecommunication companies, we are very undervalued today. And the fact that we have this partnership, which is evaluating our fintech business, which is part of the overall telco business or belonging to MTN, by 5 billion, helps to also reveal value for MTN. So, but this is also the outcome of a process that we started a couple of years ago. And the process was we wanted to separate the fintech business from the GSM business. And for doing that, we wanted really to make sure that we create a fintech business which was agile, speed to market faster, and also to be able to onboard talents to help us to develop our business. Those are the three main objectives that we had. And then we started doing it, and in the way, by finalizing it, then we got people who were interested on investing into our business. But it is just the outcome of something which is, for us, more important, to really build a sustainable fintech business.
Thank you so much. And as we are approaching more or less the end time of our session, and before we go into questions from the audience, actually, so be prepared for that, I would like to come to the last topic, coming back to that issue of how we ensure that no one is left behind, right? How do we make sure that as digital financial services advance, we don't lose people that maybe are not onboarded and can't follow us on that journey? So Aida, I would like to turn to you, because as digital financial services have been so critical to drive inclusion, there is also a key barrier, there are many barriers, but one of them is around digital financial literacy. Right? And I know that for Visa, this is a very important subject. So can you share a little bit more with our audience why this is so important for you, but more interestingly, of course, what you do to support people to be on board?
No, you're spot on. It is at the core of the overall financial inclusion agenda. We partner with regulators, with stakeholders, mobile network operators, to make sure that we drive the financial literacy agenda. It is so key for our small merchants, macro merchants, to understand and see the benefit of digital payments. I was, as always, like I do every time I'm in a country, I go to markets and experience how goods are exchanged, and I talk to the micro merchants, the wholesalers, yeah? And as I talked to them yesterday afternoon, and I asked, what is your preferred methods of receiving payments, the majority of them told me cash, although they were using, alternative payments. So there is definitely an imperative for us to continue to not only explain the benefit of digital payments, but also build that end-to-end value proposition beyond the payment experience so that we see the value. So it's part of collaboration happening with all stakeholders, like I mentioned, partners, clients, governments are also very much interested in the work we do. And of course, there's a gender lens to it, given that women are playing such an important role in the economic development of the continent, and they have their very own specific needs. Yeah. So it's about creating platforms where they can learn, network, and make sure that they can continue to grow their business digitally.
Thank you, Aida. I've got so many more questions for the three of you, actually, but I would, yes, I will.
Can I just add something?
Of course.
The investment part. So I think one thing that is, because we discussed it in the past, so I know that Serine, of course, is working kind of the same direction. I think and Aida mentioned execution, right? So I think if you look at the discussion we just had, right, 80–90%, I think we're saying the same things, right? We're going the same direction, and we know basically where the industry needs to go to serve customers. I think it's all about, are we able to execute quickly? And it's about operating model. And especially when you grow fintech in a group that is a telecom group or a conglomerate and so on, is how you adjust your operating model to run faster and execute faster. And I know it's not necessarily a fancy topic, but we all know that basically we will do a better job if, as an organization, we have a team of talented people dedicated to the mission and empowered to deliver. I think that's what we're all trying to build, and so we're investing also a lot of time and thinking on how to operate as a fintech, while the rest of the organization maybe have a slightly different operating model, right? And that's a big area of investment. That's time, it's not money, but it will make as much difference as cash, if you ask me, in our ability to deliver a good service.
Thank you for adding that point. I think it's a very critical one, actually, because investment and strategy is only as valuable as your execution power, right? And maybe the operator industry has a history of outsourcing its technology stack. But what you're saying, Irfan, and I think what's happening also on the MTN side, is that you're in-housing a lot of your capacities and your talents so that you're swift the way it's required to build fintech technology. I've got a whole set of other questions as well, but I would like to allow the audience to have at least opportunity for one or two questions before we close.
Hi, good afternoon. Ooh, that's a little loud. Good afternoon. It's Kweku Saki from the Better Than Cash Alliance. There's a question that has been bandied around. Solutions are being developed in some places. The question is how much investment is going in, mainly from probably the Visa side and from MTN, into solving the question of how people terminate into merchant wallets using cards, because we have a lot of mobile money across Africa, and we have a lot of people coming outside Africa with MasterCard, Visa, Diners Club, a whole lot of cards. And a lot of these people have problems terminating payments without a POS device. So people are trying to answer the question of probably giving a single mode of termination using your card, or a wallet based on the card that can terminate to any local wallet once you go into the app and check it out. Is there a lot of investment going on into that? Because people are trying to answer this question in different silos and trying to drive that conversation to have a universal or a more open platform where people with Visa cards can just go into a country like Kenya, coming to Ghana, going to now Nigeria, and terminate a payment onto a merchant's mobile money wallet. How much work is going into that kind of development?
So, I mean, it's very important. I think you're talking about interoperability, which is key and very important for us. And we believe that interoperability is key for this fintech or mobile money business to reach another level. And I think what you're talking about is something that we are working on, and which is available in some countries. So I think the idea is for our merchants that we have to be able to accept a payment from everyone. So starting with, before you go to cards, starting with other mobile money operators. In that sense, payment interoperability is locally is very important, because if you look at, you are here in Rwanda, the people who are coming from outside are much less than people who are, so how to make sure that a merchant of MTN can accept Airtel payments here is something which is important. So, and then beyond that, for our merchants also to be able to accept card. But accepting card doesn't mean that they need to carry a POS. They can do it with their phone, and so these are things that we are working on and will be available in most of our countries.
Yeah, it is at the core of you know, how we deliver value to small merchants and micro merchants. And by the way, fintechs are playing an instrumental role at building the stack of you know, value and delivering that value all the way to the merchants. Today, you know, we have so many different ways to begin to bring digital payments to the last mile. You know, leveraging either QR code technology, you know, leveraging phone as an acceptance device. And of course, going back to Serin's point, the question becomes, how do we make sure that we make that as seamless as possible for the small merchants, either to accept on one wallet or navigate between, you know, the different, you know, payment methods for the benefits of their activity.
I know that there's more questions from the audience, but I've received a very polite yet also clear signal to wrap up the session. I'm sure there's opportunity to ask your questions to our speakers after the session. But Irfan, Aida, Serine, I'd like to thank you very, very much for a very exciting and insightful conversation. What an industry we're working on. What movement do we see in terms of innovation? I think everyone should be very excited to be part of this. And we're building something that is super innovative and changing every year. And it makes such a big impact to people on the ground. Thank you so much, Irfan, Aida, Serine. I would also like to extend our thanks as GSMA to Vodacom and Assist All, who have been providing signing to this session. And I would also like to extend our gratitude to our donors who support us through and through. That's the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Visa. Thank you so much for that support. Without that, we couldn't operate. I would like to thank you as an audience for your attendance. I hope you've enjoyed it a lot, and I would like to make a call at 4 o'clock. That's just in half an hour, 45 minutes from now. Stay tuned, be back in this room, because we've got yet another very exciting session on fraud and consumer health. We hope to see you there. Thank you so much.